want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good day, Mad Men Mafia.
I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I do be Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Real conversations. You know what I'm saying?
Real conversations. We were really talking to each other. We were really talking to you.
You know what's real, man? So I'm coming right up on 2 years in like another couple of weeks. 2 years ago that I started kind of like a minimal a little gym journey, I guess you could say, in terms of like strength training in the gym and all that kind of stuff. And one thing has been consistent is that I've never felt like going to the gym. I most of the time I go in the morning first thing. I've never felt like it, man. So sometimes I gotta do like what I don't feel like doing, man. And maybe that's a metaphor for life. Maybe sometimes in life we don't feel like doing stuff. And maybe the balance, the tipping point, the pivot point is being able to do stuff that we don't always feel like. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to men, we work with men, and I think it's just a kind of masculine concept of we got to do what we hate. We gotta get up in the morning. We gotta put that bread on the table. We gotta, make ends meet. We gotta make that money, bring home the bacon. We gotta do all those things, whether we want to or not, because that's kind of our purpose. That's kind of our job. We're the providers. We're the protectors, presiders. We do all those things that kind of keep the household moving. We create that foundation, and yeah, I think a lot of times when we got to do those things we hate, we just got to do them anyway. But I think sometimes it's good to have somebody to help us out. What do you think?
It'd be nice if we knew somebody that kind of had an opinion on this thing, man. I don't know. What do you think?
Do we know anybody with opinions? I think we
do, man. I think we do.
Here we go.
What's going on?
Yeah,
Mr. Chris Avery's in the house.
Chris Avery, what's happening, my dog? Yes, sir.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So, stuff, before we dig into it, let's get a little bit of your story, because I was just looking at kind of your bio and stuff, and like, have you missed a day of running yet?
No, I haven't.
At 14 plus years. Days?
Yeah, over 14.
Wow.
Yep.
See, I don't even. I'm probably the opposite of you. It's probably been 4 years since I ran. So, I got injuries.
Wait a minute. Wait. To be clear, now I went to public school, right? So y'all gonna have to like come back to the beginning for me. Are you trying to tell me that you run like every daggone day?
Every day, hernia, shin splints, births, all of it. Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, out there every day, getting it.
So who's chasing you? You running from the police, or
just a police? Yeah, just a big circle. We're just in one big loop. It's almost like one of those funny movies. You just keep running around the same bookshelf, and they keep chasing you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So a little bit of background. In terms of who you are. Share with us a little bit about your story, man. Where you from? Where you from? How'd you get to where you got to here today?
Yeah, it's a great question. So really, it all started from hating running. Really, it started. I ran 5 times in 20 years. So Jason, I'm with you, man. Like I was a person that people would invite me running. I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. I don't know what that is, and I don't do it.
That sucks.
Yeah, and so so I met a beautiful lady, and she was running marathons, and she said, "Hey, you want to come run a marathon with me?" And I said, "Never do I ever want to run a marathon. I don't even know how far that is, but if I have to pay somebody to run, that sounds dumb. That sounds really, really dumb. Nobody should ever do that." And so, she runs her first marathon, and of course, I'm like, never, I'm not going to run. And so she runs it. I support her through it, right? Just as far as handing her fruit along the way and traveling to different spots she's going to be at, because I'm definitely not running that far. And then we get married, and she's going to run her last marathon. And so her friends are training with her, and they're all pumped about it, because I'm still in the no marathon camp. Mm-hmm. And her friends call her up about a month out, and we're like, "Hey, we're going to drop out. We didn't train enough." And she's like, "Hey, I think I'm going to drop out." And finally, I was a good teammate to my wife. And I said, "Hey, babe, let me be the man here. Let me carry it on the shoulders." And I said, "I'm going to step in." and run. And she said, you will? I said, yeah, I'm going to run it. I said, the only stipulation is all I want to do is get new shoes and I'll walk in them. I'm just not going to train at all. So she's like, that seems about right for you. You don't know training, just go do it. And so we went and did it that day, and that unleashed something amazing in me and just gave me an understanding of what pain really does, and gave me an understanding of the refinement that it gives you and how quickly like you can get that from the pain and from doing those hard things that you don't want to do that you would never get from everyday life. And I get like, somebody said at home going like, yeah, but Chris, life is hard. And it is. But when you choose something and you specifically go seek out that pain, man, it is a game changer. So we ran that marathon, and then I crossed the finish line, felt amazing. And then we moved on to the next thing. And the next thing was a 50 miler. Then we did, 60,000 push-ups and pull-ups in 90 days. And in January 2022, I woke up and said, man, none of those are big enough. We got to do something bigger. We got to do something more inspiring, something to show people what they're really capable of and what God is really capable of working in our lives. And
do you live next door to David Goggins or something? Like, what's
No,
this influence? Like,
no.
geez.
You
finished the marathon and felt great. I'm thinking you're doing it wrong because I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. You great spiritually.
You're like the white David Goggins without all the cuss words.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm the cleaner version. Yeah, I'm the child version, of David Goggins.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you pivoted that into actual like purpose kind of work in terms of pouring out into other people.
Yeah. So originally, even before the running, we were coaching people. And we were really impacting people's lives just because of what I had been through in my past. And if we get into that, great. If we don't, great. But that really, man, when you help somebody and you see their life get better and you see that spark kicking on them and you see not just them transform, but their family, and you see a lineage of their family change, you go like, man, this is what I want to do. And so really that so moving forward, I always wanted to be, if I was going to coach you and tell you, hey, you should do this. First, I want to try to make sure it works. Second of all, I want to be doing it. I don't want to, Les Brown says, used to be's make no honey. Because I used to be this, I used to be that, right? And they always talk about doing what they used to be. And I didn't want to be used to be. So then we started incorporating the run in it. And then it's just really become this whole thing of men running connected to God, connected to their purpose, and going out and kicking butt in life. Because we all have, most of us are sitting around, have that little fire that's burning inside. And we keep trying to dampen it, put it out, or suppress it. But man, when you breathe life into it, it's amazing what we're capable of. It's amazing how we can impact each other.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into more of your story because it sounds like you're kind of on par with a lot of what Kirk and I talk about a lot of times your purpose is in your pain, it's in your past, it's in overcoming those things and then taking that to somebody else and helping them with that same thing. So I would love to. I mean, we still got a good chunk of time in this first segment. Like, can we get into your story a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys want to know the nitty gritty all the way from the past, or what are you looking for?
Okay.
Yeah.
Every superhero has a sad backstory, man. So, so we're with it.
And Kirk, I'm so grateful for it because, and obviously when I was going through it, I wasn't grateful for it. For many years after, I wasn't grateful for it. But looking back, you realize it designs who you're going to become. It shows you things and you don't realize them in the moment. You don't even realize them sometimes looking back for years and years and years until down the road. And it's like Steve Jobs says, like, you can't look forward and connect the dots, but you can look backwards and connect the dots.
Yep.
So let's connect some of those dots. So when I was a little kid, parents got divorced, 5-6 years old. I got molested from a cousin. At that time, my parents get divorced. So a lot of tough stuff that, as a 5 or 6 year old, you don't necessarily know how to process or deal with. And so what do? You just hold on to that and hope for the best, I guess, really, I get into high school and I start drinking and doing drugs and, normal, I think high school stuff, it seems like for most guys. But that ends up being 17 years of using drugs and alcohol. And so all through high school, really just didn't know how to process my feelings. And, everybody thinks drug is the issue, but really it's actually, it's not the issue. It's the solution to the issue. Because the issue is you don't know how to handle your emotions, feelings. You don't know how to process them. You don't know how to communicate them. So you just suppress it with alcohol. And so I did that for 17 years. But looking back, there were a few pieces that were like parts that were struggles, and there were a few things that I did with running, and there were a few things where even I look back and I look at my identity and go like, man, I always loved being unique. I always loved doing the really hard thing. Man, I always loved, like, beyond being unique and doing the hard thing, I always loved when people told me I couldn't do something, right? Like, oh man, you tell me I can't do it? That's a good reason. It's a good reason for me to go after it. And so those type of things really built the identity that like helps me run every day, helps me see and really, because I mean, it's really challenging to run every day. It's really challenging to get your butt outside when it's snowing, to get your butt outside when you have a hernia that needs surgery, when you blow out your shoulder, when you have the shin splints for a year. It's really tough to get outside. Yet because of those past things and because of it shaping my identity and the way I view myself, those are big catalysts that get me out there and, man, just make you lit on fire about doing those tough things. And so really that's, without going into every detail, that's the origin story of, drugs and alcohol. Then in my late 20s, early 30s, I finally start to figure out this whole sobriety thing. I'm 41 now, if anybody cares. And so really for about the last, 10 years I've been sober, found God in my life at the same time, found a beautiful lady that now is my wife, a couple kids. And man, it's just amazing when you get around amazing people, when you get around good people, when you get around those people that are like, man, I'm here. And as men know, we need this more than ever. We need that brotherhood where when we're down, they have grace and they lift us up. When we need that correction, they're there to help us. But we need that, remember the Titans when the guys in the hospital and all those men show up. And when you're around those people and you have that brotherhood, no matter how hard that day is, you have somebody that can lift you up and help you get out there and get it done. And really that's really the origin story is, all the stuff that I've left behind shaped me. And then really, how do you grab onto that new version and that new future people around you?
Wow. Man, that's like I said, man. One thing that I've learned is it's a quote for me of every superhero has a sad backstory, man. But that stuff gives you, your pain, gives you purpose. I love the fact that you've incorporated some kind of physical aspect in it. And I heard a guy on a podcast say that the body teaches the soul, and I think the soul informs our identity, man. And so the fact that you do that and you do that helping other people now is absolutely amazing. So I think maybe we should help ourselves to a break here and give folks a time to breathe and then come back and crush this thing, man. What do you think?
I like it.
All right. We'll be right back. Men of Masculinity on KLDC. Boom. Good stuff, man. That's good stuff.
I like it. You're right up our alley. We both had similar,
no doubt, man,
backgrounds and things, and doing our
no
own.
Doubt.
Different. We don't run so much, but
yeah,
similar kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think I look at so much about human beings, and we may not have the same exact experience, but we have the same experience as a human. Yeah. We have the same emotions, same feelings, and they're triggered from different reasons. They come into our life for different reasons and different seasons. But the truth of the matter is, if we can relate to anybody. Yeah. And the question is, will the past and will the hards break us, or will they remake us? And certainly when you're the victim, they break us. But when we choose empowerment, they finally can remake us. And that's
I love that you brought up that it's not the drugs, it's not the alcohol, it's the soothing behavior, it's the feelings underneath. I mean, my latest book, Over My Shoulder, Facing the Devil in You, is all about that. It's looking at that shadow side, going through the shadow to the inner child. That's the wounded part, because your parents get divorced when you're 5 or 6. You have some other traumas going on, and then you don't know how to deal with it at that age. And so you come up with these coping mechanisms, and you're like, I just don't understand why I can't quit drinking. I don't understand why I can't do drugs. It's like, well, because you haven't dealt with the issue, which is that traumatized inner part of you that needs love and affection and to be reincorporated. So I love that you brought that up, because there's so many people. I mean, I've been sober over a year now after finally getting my work really getting to that inner child work. It's like, oh, okay, that's why. Because for several years it was like every day I get up, I'm not drinking today. And I go to work. And then on like autopilot, like somebody was puppeteering me, I'd go to the store and get the drinks and get the cigarettes and go sit and soothe. And so I think that's something we're all coming to terms with.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, here we go.
You ready?
Yep, let's roll.
Okay.
And we're back.
We're back. It's that time again.
Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City on the interwebs, everywhere. Your boys on YouTube, Facebook, all the podcast platforms, even the ALEXA on your side table can find us.
Yeah, talk to her.
Which there's one in the room here, so I won't say it because then she'll start having a conversation. She don't need to be a part of the show.
Back. She talks back. I don't understand.
Yeah, Chris Avery, do you think that it's possible for us to be empowered by the challenge? We're going to get into doing things difficult and doing what you don't want to do and all that kind of stuff. But just as a springboard from your story and everything that we were just talking about during the break, do you think that it's possible to be empowered from your challenges and even your wounds and difficulties in life?
Yeah, I think it's mandatory. I want literally, if you're listening to this, take a second and think about this. How many of you go to the thing you succeeded in and then tell me how many lessons you get from it? Tell me the growth. Like, I want you to go home today and go like, what was my favorite thing that I had happen today? And tell me the lessons and the growth you got from it. And it'll be about zero because it doesn't happen, right? Like the seed grows through the crap, through the soil, right? And the pressure and the crap that's piled on top of it, it has to force its way through. That's how it gets stronger. Why are we trying to make ourselves the exception to the rule? Like, life is not, hey, get a good job, get a nice house, buy some stuff and have a comfortable life and go home. That's not the point. If that's the point, then there is no point. So the point is, how do we understand from the value of what brings us value? Because if we're only after what makes us grow the most and brings us the most value, we look for the hard more often, because the hard is where we see how great we are and where our growing opportunities are.
Now, you said something before about not being a victim, and I'm a big proponent of that. My first 2 books are all about power perspective and looking at your life through a point of choice. And I think something I want to throw at you is maybe to get your opinion on or to get your take on is that I truly feel that we're in cahoots with God. And that before we're born, we sit down with him and go, hey, I want to have this experience. I want to have this challenge. I want to have these things. And we set these things up. And then there comes a point in your life, especially as men, where you have to go, either I chose this at some level, even if I don't remember, or I'm just a victim of these circumstances. What do you think about, that line of thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I like to always think it's like Mission Impossible. He gets a little thing and it gets a little tape and it starts playing. And it says, first, what does it say? You got to get a team. So here's your team. And then it goes through the mission. Here's all the things you got to prevent, or here's the things you got to make the outcome, get the result. And then at the end, it says, if you choose to accept it. And we're sitting down here. And most of us, the reason we're living unfulfilled, the reason we're living lives of quiet desperation is because we have that little fire inside us and we just keep suppressing it and pushing it down and hoping it goes away. And if we go even back to the run, I can tell you several times that I can look back and go like, oh, I didn't accept it right here. There was a run part. I just pushed it away. And then it came back. And then it's like, oh, okay, that time I accepted it. So there is that mission inside that we all have. It's just if we're willing to accept it. And it's not.
I wonder if I was going to say, I wonder if in our culture, though, a lot of us choose, or a lot of us attempt anyway, to sideline the challenge or to avoid or to opt out of the mission, in other words. And, really the mission is the crux of our life. But, our world and our culture gives us so many ways to medicate, so many ways to escape, so many ways as men to just kind of opt out. Nah, I think I'll go sit on the bench while the players play the game kind of thing. And I wonder if that's kind of one of the inherent fatal flaws of our culture today, especially for men, is that it's easier for us to at least try to. You never get out of the challenge. You're going to have challenges, right? I mean, at some point you're going to get a phone call from a doctor that's not going to be a good one, right? And that's, and there's all kinds of challenges before that. But I wonder if in our culture, you mentioned, just different ways to escape, again, drugs, alcohol, any kind of addiction, porn, whatever it is, cigarettes, I don't know, whatever it is. But I wonder if culturally speaking, we try to escape these things as opposed to dealing with them head on, which is really the crux of being a man and who we are in this life.
Yeah, I think it's funny. So to me, and especially in American society, is that we're sold on happiness. Hey,
Mhm.
hey, white picket fence, right? Enough money to it's just that they're selling you a picture of happiness. And what you realize as you grow up is like happiness means far less than what the value we like give it. Because happiness isn't the true goal. Right? The true goal is growth, especially for a man, is to be the hero in his own story. But whenever you watch a hero story, if it's a book or a movie, you realize there's a lot of down. And we don't get sold that when we get told like, oh, everything's gonna be happy, everything should be happy, everything should be easy, and it's not. That's the exact opposite, right? And you guys probably know the saying better than I do, so I'm gonna screw it up and I'm gonna say it. And it says, like weak men come from weak times, right? And then weak like hard times make hard men. And the truth of the matter is, we are at the precipice right now to say like we are gonna make some hard men from this time, because this is going to become very, very hard times because men are so weak. And the only reason we're so weak is because we're sold on this societal thing of this is the way it's supposed to life's supposed to look. It's supposed to be happy, and it's not. It's supposed to be growth and hero and going out conquering and making your own life in your own way and not going to. We already know from studying young men, going to school is not set up for boys. We know that. So why do we think that men are going to go to a job 8 to 5, get told what to do, have no mission, be told this is what they get to do, when they get to go home, when they get to go on vacation, when they get to be with their family, that's going to be healthy for men? It's not. So stop chasing somebody else's vision for you and start understanding your own. That's what happiness or joy and peace really comes from, and comfort comes from, is doing those things and realize like how hard, how great you really are.
Yeah, I mean, it's the hero's journey all over again. You get called to action, you refuse the call, it comes back around, and you realize you have to do this thing, and your happiness comes from the contentment, it comes from the accomplishment, it comes from that growth that you're
Yeah.
talking about of this thing that I accomplished. You ran a marathon. I'm not running a marathon. I got metal on my foot. I might bike a marathon, something like that. But it's like,
Yeah.
what is this hard thing that we as men need to accomplish? And you're totally right. I mean, nice guy syndrome, the feminist narrative, the schooling system, all those things, they're not designed for men. There's no more rite of passage for young boys. There's no more um, hero's journey even being taught to young boys. Like, hey, or there's even not even a delineation anymore of like, hey, now you're becoming a man, and this is what it means to be a man. Everybody's got to figure it out themselves. So I think in some ways, most men nowadays are all being called to their own hero's journey. Like, who are you? Who you want to be? What is your purpose, and what is your legacy in life?
It is absolutely the most important thing we can answer as a man. Like, if not, you bounce around through life and you just feel lost the whole time. I spent many years just feeling lost because nobody tells you how to do this thing. And let's be honest, we have to figure out our own version. We really do. But the version that we're being sold, or we've been sold for a long time, is just that, a version, and it's not our version. It's just a version that somebody made up. And now it's been, as you said, from the women's movement, it's just been so convoluted, and all it's been told for us, for a gentleman our age, is that we're the bad ones, like we're the not good ones. That's not the way you should be. Hey, you go to see a woman therapist and you get taught by a woman teacher, and then they tell you you're a naughty boy, and then you go home and they tell you you're a naughty boy, and then you just think you're a naughty boy. But really, you're just a boy trying to become a man, and that looks different than the woman becoming a woman. And so, of course, when you take it from that perspective, you're always going to look right. Like if I'm a blind man and you grab the elephant's trunk and I grab its tail, and we have two different stories, it doesn't mean I'm wrong or you're wrong. It just means that I have a different perspective, and a woman's perspective on how a man should be, because I'm married, and the way I handle my kids compared to the way my wife handles my kids are very different, because I have a lot of testosterone, I have a lot of anger and just naturally. So of course we're going to be different. Yeah, we're trying to fit in this round, this peg in this round hole.
So us as men, to some degree, have to get into places where where our identity is shaped by masculinity, and not so much by some other narrative, and really it is generally speaking the other narrative. But getting into a place where we are where we are molded and formed and shaped by, with, and around and through other forms of healthy masculinity, as opposed to just, following what the next best thing is that says this is how you chase happiness.
It is. You just nailed it, right? Like, how do we get around other men in a tribe? And I mean that, like, we need tribe culture more. We have lost too much community. We've lost too much tribe, and we've lost too much, like, just have one man raise you. Like, you need a tribe of men to go, like, oh, these are the different attributes. These are the different characteristics. And these are all men, and they're all different. But I like a piece of this. I like a piece of this. I like a piece of this. Now that's how I become the man that I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue and one of the things that we work so hard on is to kind of educate men nowadays away from the kind of, we got a lot of ladies telling us what a man is who never had a father figure in their life to even show them what a man is. And then we listen because we're men, we like ladies for the most part, and we definitely want to do what makes them happy or get them on our side, if you will. And so, but it backfires because we do all the things that they ask or we think they want, which is part and parcel of nice guy syndrome. And then no matter what we do, we're wrong, and then we're hated, and then they don't respect us, and then we can't figure it out. And we've got, that quiet desperation for a lot of men now is, I don't have a purpose and I can't make my wife happy. I do everything she wants. I do everything she asks me to, but she still doesn't respect me.
Yeah.
And so this retraining, I think, every man's coming to his own kind of dark night of the soul, like, okay, that's not working. And so I have two choices. Either I work on myself, I go isolate, or I just take myself out either with some addiction or, the permanent way. But there are other answers. And I think this whole episode and what we're going to get into coming up in these last two segments of doing what you hate on purpose, being a man and getting out of bed when it's cold, when it's snowing, whether it's running, maybe you can't run, but there's something that you could be doing. I mean, Kurt gets up about the time I get up to go to work, to go to the gym every day, or a lot of days. I try to force myself to go to the gym after work, but that's about 50-50 half the time. But, you got to force yourself to do those things you hate to get the results you want. And so, speaking of the results we want, we're going to resort ourselves right into a break. So we're the Mad Men of Masculinity. That's Chris Avery, and we'll be right back. I can hear you drinking. It's weird.
Can you? Well, I know between the two of you, there's only one of y'all with a kid somewhere in the background.
Ain't my turn.
That's definitely
ain't my turn either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy to narrow down. Cool.
All right, heading into the third segment.
All right.
Anything you want to highlight?
Yep, let's roll. I got a kickoff question here.
All right, perfect.
All right.
Your boys are back.
We're back. Your boys are back. The boys are back in town. What was that? Was that the Bus Boys? Is that song? I don't know, from 48 Hours? Yeah. The boys are back in town. I don't know, man. That's the old school. Was that Axel Foley?
Axel Foley.
Yeah, the boys are back in town.
I think that was 48 Hours with Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy.
Oh, is that what I'm thinking about? Yeah, Eddie Murphy, yeah, Nick Nolte, right? And that was when the boys are back in town. That's when that song came out, right? Yeah.
Sure. So somebody let us know in the comments if Kirk's right or wrong.
Yeah, somebody let us know, man. Man, we tend to squirrel, but somebody will straighten us out in the comments. When did the boys are back in town come out? I got a question here for you, Chris. Talk to me a little bit about the grind. And where I'm getting at, let me set this up a little bit.
You're talking about the coffee grinder, right?
No. And I ain't talking about what you did in the club, back in the day. I ain't talking about that at all. I'm talking about, one of the things that I'm realizing in life, or that I've come to accept, is that the idea of the finish line is false advertisement. Like, The finish line happens when you're belly up somewhere with a half open box, right? I mean, and so in terms of life and this life in the living of life, the finish line is kind of, the journey is really the destination. And one of the things that I think comes along with that, and this is to me is a parallel between your running journey there, Chris, is that, running the marathon. I mean, I've run like a couple few 10Ks over life. And like in your case of a marathon, you didn't, in running that marathon, you didn't run 26.2 miles. You probably ran hundreds, at least hundreds of miles before the day you actually had a starting line and actually crossed what was in that race a finish line. But it's the daily grind, and I think that's why a lot of people don't like running, because it's just a grind, man. It's like somehow you got to tune out the mental and all that kind of stuff. And so in the journey of life, talk to me a little bit about what the grind looks like of doing the thing you don't want to do. When I woke up this morning and there was several inches of snow on the ground, and et cetera, et cetera, I gave myself every reason in the world, not to go to the gym. I mean, I did yesterday. And so, but it's that grind. It's the everyday getting up and doing that thing. That's really, the journey. Talk to me a little bit about that, Chris.
Yeah, of course. So one of my favorite quotes is, the magic we're looking for is in the work we're avoiding. Okay. So if the magic we're looking for is in the work we're avoiding, we already know the answer to the grind. You don't want to do it because you're avoiding the work, because the magic you're looking for is right there. So to me, when I look at, like, it's less about grind. It's more about being the man that does what he says he's going to do. Right. Like most of us go like, what is it to be a man? And what do we always say about the past? You should not have to have contracts. We should be able to used to stretch my arm across the table and shake another man's hand and know his word was good. We don't know that anymore. Yeah, because we stopped being men of our word. And so to me, when we look at the grind, it's the refiner's fire, right? So they were interviewing a guy that refines metal. And so they said, like, how does the process work? And he says, well, you put the gold in this pan and then you put it over the heat. And he says, you leave it over the center of the heat, right at the hottest. And they're like, all right, so how do you know when the gold is refined so you don't refine it too much? And he goes, oh, that's really easy. Whenever I can look and see myself in it. And it's the refiner's fire. When you can see the vision of yourself, when you go home and you die, this is one of my greatest fears, is I die and I go home to heaven and God shows me who I could have been and I don't measure up. Right. And that refiner's fire is that measuring up. And man, without those things, without these tests, how do we ever know how great we are? See, we're not here for happiness. We're here to do what we say we're going to do and see how great we can really be. And if we live life like that, then that means we are here for one incredible story. And that's what it's about. The grind is about writing. You know why I get up, Kirk? Because somebody else won't. You know why I run today in the snow? Because somebody else won't. You know why I left at 11:59 out of the sliding glass door that opened up at the hospital when my son was born? Because somebody else won't. Right? They say that whatever you do in the darkness shows up in the light, because somebody else won't. And that's what every day I get out there and I grind and I do the work. I have to remind myself, I'm doing this to show people what God is made of, and to show people and show who he really is and what he could do in our life, and show the other men that may take off today what it looks like not to take off today.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, you were talking about, we haven't to have contracts now because we're not men of our word. And a lot of that comes down to, we're not men of our word to ourselves.
Yep.
And so many of us, that whole searching for happiness thing and looking outside of ourselves for the happiness, or looking outside of ourselves for the purpose. But if we would go inward, maybe have that, keep that word with ourselves. I think maybe doing what sucks or doing what you hate on purpose, like you were talking about, is that grind and keeping that word to yourself, because like you said, other people won't do it.
Yeah. And I mean, think about our lives without the heart. Again, what do we do as men? Oh man, let me tell you about this thing I just overcame, man. Let me tell you about this hard thing. What kind of stories would we have? They'd be what kind of movies would you watch? What kind of books would you watch? Nobody reads a book where it starts with the guy's doing really well and it ends with the guy's doing really well. That's the most boring straight line, or even just gradually up. That's the most boring thing ever. None of us want that. We just think we want that because we've been lulled into this false like sense of security and peace, and everything should be happy and everything should be peaceful. And that's, if you want a better relationship with your lady, expect friction. If you want a better life for yourself, expect friction. Friction makes fire, and that creates the rebirthing. So to me, like whenever I have a disagreement with my wife, I go like, good, because now our relationship's going to get better. Most people say, oh crap, I don't want to have that again. How do we not have that? I say, good, because it's going to help us be better. And that's the mindset we have to, that's how we have to think with belief. Is we have to go like, man, I'm going to do this because I believe whatever happens is going to give me feedback and I can get better from it. And when we have that thought process and that way of living, we become unstoppable because our upside, our unlimited potential is there. Because every time we do something, we go like, all right, what's a little bit something I can do a little bit better? And that's what I think, to me, what a real man in this world looks like is following through, doing what you're saying to do. And how do we keep leveling up to be better, not just for us, but for the people around us?
Right, because it's the work. I mean, work is a four-letter word, but it's the work that gets us there, man. It's the work that you got to be willing to do. I love, Ray Lewis he already talked about, effort is up to, is up to you and you, and nobody can measure your effort but you. But you got to be willing to do that work. We celebrate greatness, but I believe there's only one man that's ever born great. The rest of us, we got to develop greatness, right? And when the guys in a couple of weeks are holding that trophy in Santa Clara, California, after at the end of the game, it's like, those guys put in a tremendous amount of work day in and day out for decades. I mean, the greatest, the ones that put on the gold jacket, man, they spend more time doing the work. They spend more time in practice and watching film than they do playing the game. They're obsessed with that. They're almost in love with the work. Michael Jordan and Kobe's and all these kind of guys talk about, being in love with the work, with the process, with the effort. Kobe's famous for, if he's supposed to get there at 6, he'd be there at 5:30, I mean, that's the kind of mentality that we have to get to. And like I said, I think, for most of us, it's a matter of developing that greatness, man. But you only develop that greatness through the work, through the grind, through the process of getting there.
Yeah, and I'll just say this, man. Like I'm such a weak person, man. I started with 1 mile, right? I wanted to see if I could even do 1 mile, because before this, when I did train for the 50 miler, I only ran 4 days in a row. So when I looked, I went like, what is the smallest amount that I feel like I can do consistently? And I went, let's just start with a mile, man. I will laugh at myself tonight if I go to bed and I look and I go like, man, you got to do 1 mile. You can walk that 15 minutes, run it. So like I can get that done in 1 day. In 24 hours, I can get a mile done. And so we started so small because like had I started at 17 miles a day, like I'm running right now, I would have quit. Day 1, day 2, I would have been just sore, tired, not wanting to do it. Would have found a reason not to do it. Too much sun outside. I can't run when it's too sunny. That's too much sun. I can't do that. I would have found whatever reason to not run. And so to me, starting so small was and it's amazing. Like so looking at the marathon with no training, you can do something really huge once, meaning like you can't do it consistently, or you can do something so small consistently. But if you do something so small consistently, you can get where you're doing something like that looks great or amazing consistently. And that's really by doing the ordinary just a little bit extra, because it's not extraordinary. Yeah. It's just that little extra.
Dude, that's the Kaizen. It's small, measurable change projected out over time. It's big change is not sustainable, but small change is. And you stack one brick as perfectly as possible, and eventually you got the Great Wall of China. And maybe that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they want to go from couch to marathon like tomorrow. And life just doesn't work that way, man. Most of us got to get rid of that spare tire before we can even go fast.
I definitely find with most men, they are like, I equate them to rocket ships. They just shoot off really hard and quick, and then they usually explode, because that is it. They're just trying to, and then they come back and they go like, I'm not running. And I said, yeah, because I said run 1 to 3 miles Like I started with 5 and I said, I know. And you ran for 2 days and now it's been a week and we still haven't ran. So maybe let's follow the directions, you know?
Yeah, every man, loves being an armchair quarterback or an armchair boxer, like I could take him, I could do that. If they had me there, we all have that little bit of delusion and fantasy, and that's kind of part of our makeup. However, doing the little things, chunking down, starting small is a much better measure of success than, we could, if the house is on fire, we need to move our butts real fast and get in and do that firework thing, shoot off and get everybody out of the house and do all that stuff. But then afterwards we're resting. But to your point, I mean, it's like suffering is optional, but pain is probably gonna come, but you get to choose that. So what pain do you want? What effort do you want to put in? What is it that is going to get you to that goal? I love Matthew McConaughey's speech about my hero is me in 10 years, and how do I get to become that guy? And so, speaking of becoming that guy, I think it's time for us to become our last break. So we'll be right back. This is the Mad Men of Masculinity, and you're listening to us on KLDC. Boom, it goes by fast. Told you.
Almost there.
No doubt.
Do you guys do this daily?
Once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week. Yeah.
Yeah, we do it once a week. Then I chop it up and put it out on TikTok for all the ADD kids and all that stuff, and then we put it out on the podcast channels, Spotify and things like that, so everybody can listen to it. Because some people like looking at us, some people just like listen to us.
For sure.
Got these faces for
some
radio.
people like looking at me. Some people prefer to just listen to Jason. So.
There we go. See here. See what I got put up with.
This is what it is, man. It is what it is.
All right, Kirk. You got any opening questions for the fourth quarter?
Not off the top of my head. Do you?
I'll come up some.
All right.
And we're back.
Your boys are back.
We got a guest.
Doubt.
We got three amigos in the house today.
No doubt. Chris, hey Chris, where do you live, man? Where are you based out of?
So I'm in Utah. So Salt Lake area, just for people that don't know Utah that well, it's easiest to say, It's the only place that people know in Utah is Salt Lake. So Salt Lake.
Did Park City get any snow? Did you guys steal all our snow?
No, they haven't got much snow this year. We haven't got much snow this year at all,
I know we're in here in Colorado, we're like a 40-year low. It was like the 80s last time it was
crazy.
This bad. So it's hopefully we get a heavy spring. But speaking of heavy spring, since spring's right around the corner. And most guys want to get that beach body, impress the ladies and all that stuff like that. What would you suggest is the best way to get there and to sustain it? Because, we were talking about the whole firework analogy, like guys like to shoot off and then blow up, and then that's not sustainable. What would you suggest as somebody who obviously is very consistent? How would you suggest guys get to that point and be able to sustain it?
Yeah, I'm going to almost destroy your question, I think, while I'm answering it, but stop doing it. Stop focusing on that. That's the dumbest thing ever. Your beach body sucks. It's not going to happen. How many times have you talked about it happening? It's not going to. So just move past it and just find some way to actually win.
I feel that right here. You're talking to me.
Right, the pecs, right, the beach body, the pecs right there. Yeah, it hurts the most right there. And I'll say this, to me, it is figuring out a way to get yourself to do the thing that you're not going to do. Right? It has nothing to do with your beach body. It has nothing to do with me running every day. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest, the trick for me is how do I get myself from the couch out the door? And most of us are trying to still pick, even the 1 mile thing that I was talking to you guys about it's a secret to me, but really the secret is getting out of the door. Because this is proven to myself so many times through running, is I said, as long as I get outside and I start the run, I know I'm I build it into my identity. I know I'm the person that'll go finish it. So now all I have to do is make sure I start at least my tracker today outside, because now I'm going to finish it. So if you are sitting there going for the umpteenth year, man, I want that beach body. How do I get it? I'll say start something stupidly small and work at it. But don't worry about your beach body, because that's a deadline or a timeline that you made up and is arbitrary and goes back to even Kirk's last question of it's about the journey. right? And if you what is the reason you want the beach body? Because there's something seriously inside that's calling you for a beach body and thinks that's that important. And I think the question is more, why is that tied to your identity? Why is that so important to you? And how are you gonna let that go to focus on one thing that you can just jam it consistently? And I don't care if that's like I roll off my bed and I do 5 push-ups every day. Boom, get it. Because you'll be at your when I did the 60,000 push-ups and pull-ups, I did a lot more than 60,000 push-ups and pull-ups to get there. And it all starts with, and I didn't say like I want to look a certain way from the 60,000 push-ups and pull-ups. The point was the who you become and the things you understand about yourself and the challenge. And if you understand yourself, like, hey man, here's what gets me, here's what drives me, here's what fires me up about my identity. Now you're tapping into an energy source where the beach body is actually, you have a file system in your neural pathways and you already have referenced in there because you've already set up the beach body thing. And it says, we don't do that. We talk about it a lot. We fail at it every time we try it. So every time you think, let's do the beach body, that's what your brain references. Now, wonder you don't do it. But my brain didn't have a file for walk outside. I already set up the file. Hey, what's in the file? Hey, no, if I get outside, I'll get my miles done. So I already set that up, set up a new file system, understand going after something new, and then understanding how to enjoy the process of who you become when you wake up and it sucks and you don't want to roll out of bed and it's cold and it's warmer in bed and you are like the lady you're laying next to a lot more than the ground that you're about ready to, give a kiss to when you do some push-ups. And you have to start to build in the understanding of, I do this not for a beach body. I do this because I want that lady to wake up next to me every day and go like, dang, I like that man. I like that man because he's already up doing 5 push-ups. He shows me who he is, and and we show ourselves who we are, and that's far more important than the beach body.
It's and then what you find out is, really, just putting your feet on the floor is probably the hardest part of the process. Putting your feet on the floor outside of that comfy bed that you have is literally the hardest thing that there is. And then you realize, like, the reality is most people don't enjoy getting out of bed per se. Like, it's comfortable, right? Especially if you got a good bed and, like you said, if you got somebody pretty next to you or just whatever, all the reasons why you sleep where you sleep. And it's the process, it's the identity that you end up developing. And really in this example of that body, that beach body, or that, getting swole, ripped, cut, shredded, whatever you want to call it, it is really an indication to yourself and other people that you have an identity of discipline, that you have an identity of mind over body, that your upper level brain is more powerful than your lower level brain. Your prefrontal cortex is steering the ship, not your hippocampus, and so it's all of those things that you realize when you develop those things. But to be able to start off small, to be able to start off with just some little, and to develop those little small habits, man, that's the key. And that's where you realize the difference lies in winning and losing. It's just, are you willing to put your feet on the floor in the morning?
Yeah, and it put those little things built, like, give you the deposits in the bank account, right? And that's one of my things. Like, are you debiting or are you crediting? And every time you wake up and you put your feet on the floor, you do the push-ups, you now deposit in the bank account. But every time you don't, you withdraw. And that bank account is how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself, and what you show up whatever adversity is happening, will you show up or not? And that's the great thing, is the small little mile or the small 5 push-ups. In the past, I used to go like, that's stupid, man. That's so small. Like, that means nothing. And then I realized, no, that's everything. And when you give it the proper credit and you align the value to it, it gives you a reason to get up and do it. And to me, that is the cognitive dissonance I built over the years of trying to make these things big and then shoot off like a rocket and then prove to myself over and over and over, guys, that I couldn't do it. I built that bank account. So then I had to go back and be like, I gotta get a new bank account, and I gotta make it smaller because now I can deposit those things. posits.
You said something a little bit earlier, and then you guys talk about, going to the gym and the beach body stuff. And so when you talked about identity and creating that identity that is that guy, there is a subset of guys who haven't actually done the inner work that you have, or some of us have, and are using even like the gym as their addiction, as their soothing mechanism. And so, what is the identity from your perspective that a man should shoot for that is more healthy, so that even because we can even use healthy things like gym and dieting as an addiction, because we have decided that that's better than something else or whatnot. But you see those guys in the gym that they live there. They're so obsessed with that, how they look and their diet and their physique and all those things. And you're like, I don't know, that's all that healthy. What is the identity you would say, Chris, is that most guys should, or a healthy man should probably look towards building?
That's a great question. I always start with know thyself, and I think the healthiest man is working on knowing himself. If you're not doing that, you're hitting the gym, like stop it. Spend go to the bathroom for 5 minutes and read something or think about your life a little bit more. But I think a healthy man and what he's after is not an external thing. Right? Because everybody, we want to like wear the nicer suit or buy the nicer car or because that's all external. And that is the thing. Whenever somebody is caught up so in the external, I know they're already mentally not healthy because they're consumed by something that's outside them to make themselves feel better. But if we know the value only comes from within, I look for the men that no matter where they're at in their journey, no matter where they're at in their grind, they still see value in themselves. And that's what I know, like when I can measure a man easier is like, if your value is how much you work, how much you get paid, how much you give to like money wise to other people, I already know you're in a deficit. So if we want to get you at a surplus, we got to go back and go like a healthy man pursues himself, pursues that inner work more than ever. And so to me, that's the way I always look, is if somebody's willing to do the inner work or if they're, willing to avoid it.
Because the last thing you want to do is to be looking for external validation. I mean, if you're looking for validation, it's a matter of, who am I from some external source? And any external source in the world around you is going to be temporary, right? If you're looking for validation in women, for example, I mean, man, even if you're in the greatest relationship, that relationship is going to end one day, right? I mean, and you say that in your wedding vows, so death do us part. I mean, if you're looking for validation in your work, you're probably at some point gonna, not be in that work anymore. There's pro athletes that say when they stopped playing that sport, when they retired, they didn't know what to do with themselves. Like they didn't know who they were anymore. And so, that validation from the external is your check and balance in terms of, am I obsessed with the gym because I'm obsessed with getting chicks? I'm obsessed with, with all that kind of stuff, how people perceive me and all of that. Well, then you probably are out of balance anyway, and that's probably where you need to start. That's probably where you need to start in terms of doing the work on who you are as a person.
Yeah. Well, Chris, since we're coming to the end of this episode so quickly, and we forgot up until this point now, because I just remembered, how can people get a hold of you if they want help working on their identity, or they want help working on doing those things they hate? Like, how can they get a hold of you if they want your help?
Yeah, great question. So you can go to social media. You can go to Chris Avery Coaching on Instagram or Chris Avery on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you can find me there. I'm the guy with either the beard covered in snow face or I'm running in snow, something with snow. Just look for a lot of snow and some dude in it that you can't even tell is in it, because that's what I'm doing. I'm running in it. So that you can find it there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for the work you do. I mean, we're all squad. We're all part of the Mad Men Mafia. We're all men just doing the best we can to try to make the world a better place. And we appreciate you doing what you do. And until next time, we are the Mad Men of Masculinity. That's Chris Avery. And we are out.